Hi, everyone. I'm Ali Mashadi, and thank you so much for coming to my course here on forming and using a book marketing street team with the APSS and Bookselling University. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm going to talk to you about this really interesting and I think very underutilized tactic for growing your audience and marketing your book. And just so you know, there is a handout available that has additional resources on forming and working with a street team that is available to you here through Bookselling University. So look for that link and make sure you grab that. So what is a street team anyway? Let's talk about what exactly this term means and doesn't mean so that we're operating with a clear definition before we get into the tips. So a street team is a group of people who hit the streets promoting a product or event. Now, in the beginning, this was quite literal. So this term street team and this concept really grew out of the urban music scene in the 1970s, early 1980s, where you had kids who were literally playing their favorite artists' mixtapes and handing out flyers for shows on street corners as a way to build buzz. This is a strategy that boosts the power of your other tactics, okay? And strategy is the key word here. So in other words, when you think about a street team, you want to think about it as part of your overall book marketing plan. But in and of itself, it's not a marketing plan. Okay, so I want to be very clear about that. This is one strategy, one tactic that you can put to work as part of your overall plan. It's not something that just sort of operates in a vacuum, if you will. A street team is an especially great strategy if you're on a budget and if you don't have a lot of time. And you're going to see why as we go throughout this course. Now, a caveat here, there is more of a time investment than a financial investment, but it probably will cost you some money. If you use it wisely, you will get great return on investment on that money. Ultimately, though, the idea of a street team is that, beyond that initial sort of setup and investment in creating the street team and getting things rolling, in the long run, what it's going to do is it's going to let you put less time into marketing while your street team members start to shoulder more of the burden for you, so that you can get back to writing. And that's what we all want, right? Authors want to be writing. They don't want to be putting all of their time and energy into marketing the book. So that's where the street team and having this group of people sort of helping you is going to come in. I just want you to be aware in the very beginning, and some of the things we're going to talk about today in terms of standing a street team up, there is definitely more of a time and financial investment in the beginning, but in the long term, definitely lower cost and lower time as well. And one last thing I want to make clear before we dive into the good stuff is the street team strategy is really best for authors who already have a fan base, even if it's a small one. Okay, so as you'll see when we start to get into best practices, if you have at least a small fan base, and I'm talking even just a handful of people who are already, really fans of your work, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to form your initial team and get some buzz going around and among those team members, which continues to build excitement and, sort of grow momentum, and that's going to translate into their efforts. So it doesn't mean that if you have no following, you can't take advantage of this. It just works better if you already have, a few people sort of in your circle already. But we're going to talk more about that in a bit. So that's what a street team is. Let's get really clear about a street team is not. All right, first and foremost, unlike back in the day when the term first came into vogue, it is not limited to actual streets anymore. We're not talking about people just standing on corners handing out flyers. There's plenty of work a street team can do for an author these days, online and offline. And in fact, in my opinion, a combination works best. I also want to be really clear that a street team is not made up of your friends and family. Okay, it's not a fan club in a loose, informal sense. Your friends and family can be great people to start with, and if that's who your primary audience is, if you've got some really strong cheerleaders, and you sort of have to feel this out for yourself. Sometimes people can have friends and family who are really dedicated fans and are extremely supportive and are really willing to dive in there and be a part of a street team and help somebody's career get off the ground. Other times it's more of moral support, and that's great. We all love moral support, but generally generally speaking, you want to think more long-term. Your street team is ultimately not going to be made up of your friends and family. It's going to be made up of your readers, of your fans. Okay, people who are fans of your work and not just fans of you. When you start working with a street team, you want to be aware this is not a set it and forget it tactic. This is a long-term strategy, and as you're going to see, it does require some nurturing, again, especially in the beginning. So you need to stay in touch. We're going to talk about how you deliberately build relationships to keep the group's ties strong and excitement high. But the upside here is that you can keep this street team active and adding new members over time to maintain size or grow the size all the way throughout your author career. So if you're just getting started with a first book or a second book, now is a great time for you to start considering this strategy, and it's something that can serve you, all the way through till the day when you're a huge bestseller and looking back at that first book going, oh man, that was such a slog uphill. And if you've been in the business for a while and you've already got that audience and you haven't used a street team yet, well then maybe this is the thing that's going to help you take your book sales to the next level. So it can really be good for people at different places. A really good metaphor for a street team is like planting a tree. It needs a lot of attention in the beginning to make sure it grows strong and straight, but once it's a few years old and established, it's going to need some pruning and some fertilizer a couple times a year, but that's about it. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say it's not exactly set it and forget it, but ultimately in the long term, a little bit more hands-off than some other strategies might be. And last but not least, a street team really is not an ideal strategy if you are what we call a one-timer, right? A one-time author. So if you're a hobby author or a bucket list writer, somebody who may never publish a second or third book, if you just sort of had that one great story you wanted to tell, or it was, just an item that you wanted to sort of check off that bucket list that you always wanted to write and publish a book, a street team is probably not the best marketing strategy for you, because building that long-term relationship and that idea of being part of something, that's a key part of what makes a street team effective. So if there isn't this sort of sense of a long-term career or a growing career, and there aren't going to be more books in the future, then you're kind of missing out on a key piece, and it's probably not going to work very effectively for you. And also, it's probably not the best investment of your time, because ultimately, as I said, it is long-term. It's not necessarily just something to be done just to promote one book and then be over it and then be done. So let's talk about, now that we're clear on what a street team is and is not, how to assemble and coordinate the right team for you. Step number one, people, you got to get organized. If you want to attract serious help, you got to look serious. Right? To attract the best people, you need to look like the pro that I know you all are, right? In other words, being an author is not a hobby for you. You are someone who takes building their brand and their army of readers seriously. You're someone who intends to publish more than one book and sees doing so as a way of serving those fans. Okay? So what does this look like? We're going to keep unpacking this, but think of your street team as another type of customer. Okay, think of the people in your street team as your VIPs. How do you impress VIPs? Right? A super professional website, a super professional book product. That means your book has been edited, your cover has been well designed, probably by a professional. Your interior has been well designed and is clear and attractive, and it makes it easy to read. Your website looks good, your social media looks good, your branding's all in place, right? Everything should be treated with the utmost professionalism when you are thinking about attracting and growing a street team, okay? Because the impression that people get of you is going to influence the kind of people that are willing to work with you or that are interested in working with you, okay? Now, one really key piece to getting off on the right foot here is to create a thorough application form. Okay, so when you start building a street team, you're going to have some kind of a form that you'll ask people to fill out to apply for your street team. What's on that form? Well, first and foremost, you always want to ask for the vitals. Name, email, address, maybe mailing address as well, phone number, and you definitely want to ask people's age, because you want to be sure that the people joining your street team are adults and not minors. Okay, or if there are minors, and that's a decision you have to make for yourself, and of course that may depend on the type of book you have. If you're writing for a young adult or a middle grade audience, it could be really great to have some really motivated, ambitious teens or middle graders, preteens on your street team, but you need to know if they're there because there's going to be parental consent involved, right? There are going to be things that you can't just ask children to do that you can't ask minors to do without their parents being involved, without their parents' permission. That's just, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but that's a whole quagmire that I think nobody really wants to get into. So make sure you ask for people's age to be sure that they are adults, and if they are minors, to be sure that you get proper permission and that the parents are aware that they're participating. You also want to think through what it is that you really want to do. So you can add some more selective questions to your form. So things like, if the person has experience being part of a street team, or if there's some other organization they've been a part of that they're really passionate about. That can give you a clue as to whether or not this is the kind of person that you're looking for. You know, somebody who is used to joining nonprofit organizations or rallying or protesting or, you know, or forming events, throwing parties, whatever it is. Somebody who's engaged in that kind of activity already is going to be a little more familiar with the kinds of things you're going to ask them to do. That might be a more attractive candidate than somebody who's never been involved in anything before. Now, of course, when you're just starting out, you may not feel like you want to be too selective. You may feel like you're just happy that anybody wants to apply. But it's still good information to have, and it still can help inform how you communicate with people on your street team to know what kind of experience they do or do not have. You might want to ask them about their general availability. You know, is it okay if people on your street team are really only available to help out and do stuff on the weekends? Or are they only available for the next, 3 months because it's May and they're a college student and they're home for the summer? Or they have young children and maybe they're only available during the school year and not during the summer when their children are home. So you kind of want to know when they're going to be available to help out. You might want to ask what kind of and how many book or reader related events they attend monthly. You know, are these super fans? Are these people who are really into reading? Are they reading tons of books? Do they go to book signings? Do they go to book festivals, online, offline, whatever? You might want to ask what else they read or how much they read. You know, you might want to know, again, if these are people who are super into the category that you're writing in. You know, are they super fans? Are they aware of what else is going on? Or do they just, sort of come across your work and think you seem really cool and they want to help you out? You might want to ask some questions about how outgoing they are and whether or not they like meeting new people. There are lots of activities that a street team member might do, from their own home on their computer, but there are also activities where you might want to have people who are especially outgoing, who like meeting new people, who like talking to people. Imagine, for example, being at a book festival and having members of your street team go throughout the festival and hand out postcards or little gifts to try and drive them over to your booth, right? The kind of person who's going to be best at that type of task is someone who's outgoing, someone who likes talking to people, someone who's comfortable reaching out to perfect strangers who probably are, have their heads buried in their cell phones and trying to attract their interest and chat them up and bring them over. Someone who's very introverted and uncomfortable in crowds is not going to be as good at that kind of activity. So if you know your activities in your marketing plan are going to include, this or that, you might want to have questions that help you suss out whether or not you're getting the right kind of people into your street team. Last but not least, one thing you might want to ask is how often do they post to social media and what platforms do they use the most? So again, if you know that you're going to be doing a lot of activity on social media, maybe you're going to be doing some Facebook Live videos, reading your book or talking about something related to your book. Or maybe you're going to have giveaways. Maybe you're going to do like Goodreads or Amazon giveaways. One of the key pieces of success for a giveaway is to heavily promote it. Social media can be a great tool for that. So again, if you know that's something you plan on doing in your overall book marketing plan, you might want to make sure that the people applying for your street team know how to use social media. If you're planning to do a lot of stuff on Facebook, you want people who are already on Facebook and using Facebook regularly. You don't want to have a learning curve where you have to teach people in your street team how to use Facebook just so they can help you out, right? That's going to make it a lot harder for everyone, a lot less enjoyable, and you're not going to get the same kind of results. So I think you can see where I'm going with this idea. Now, on a related note, just as you have to look as professional as possible to attract the right kind of applicants to your street team, again, first impressions really count. If you want organized, reliable people who are going to stick around and take things seriously, make it clear that you have your proverbial shit together from day one with an onboarding process that sets the tone for the group. So imagine your own experiences joining a company, like the last time you started a new job or maybe volunteered for a new organization. Think about what kinds of things were done that were helpful or exciting for you. Okay, so let me give you some suggestions. First and foremost, I highly recommend that you design some kind of welcome kit. A welcome kit doesn't have to be super fancy. It doesn't have to be designed and beautiful. Although if you have those kinds of talents or you're using a tool like Canva that makes it easy, by all means, make something that goes along with your brand. That definitely speaks to my point about making everything look really professional. Your welcome kit primarily should include a few things. First of all, a personal message of welcome from you, like a little letter. It should talk a little bit about your background, so your writing history, how you came to write this book or why you started this series of books. A little description of the role or what's expected from the member of the street team. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. We're going to dig into it a little bit more, but maybe everyone in your street team is sort of the same kind of person, or maybe you divvy it up. Maybe you have people on the street team who take on certain roles, like, maybe there's like the social media committee, and maybe there's like the book festival committee or something like that. So whatever, if that applies, you want to make sure that you're describing clearly what the role is for that person and what's expected of them as a person who's signed up for that role. It's really important to have clearly defined objectives for your street team. Like, are you going to be working with them to get more reviews for your book? Are you going to be, are you going to be focused more on sales, right? Is this a book launch? Are you forming the street team because you have a new book coming out in a few months and you're sort of leading up to that and you want to really build your audience and build excitement for the book? Are you trying to build your mailing list in advance of publishing a book? Or maybe you already have books out there, so you're forming the street team to try to boost exposure and awareness of your existing catalog, right? Make sure whatever that is, it's clearly defined in the welcome kit so the person knows exactly what it is you're trying to do and what they're going to be helping you do. You might want to have some kind of general list of do's and don'ts if that applies. If there's any particular information you feel they need to know about, how to treat one another. That's a pretty common thing. People might have sort of general statements about being courteous, or when you're available to talk by phone, when they should call you, when they should not call you, how you prefer that they contact you, anything like that. You probably want to include a calendar of events. So if you've got your marketing strategy mapped out and there are events that are relevant to things your street team is going to be participating in, helping you to advertise, for example, or helping you to run, you probably want to include that. And any other helpful information, depending on what your plans are, you want all that to go into the welcome kit. So a person should feel really oriented, really sort of taken by the hand. And the clearer and more professional and straightforward you can be in that welcome kit, it's going to make that person feel really supported. It's going to make them feel really good about joining this street team. And it's going to get them really excited. Because when you join something and you can see that this organization or this person that's going to lead you, really has their eye on the ball and they know what's going on and there's all this cool stuff happening, that generates excitement. That's part of what I mean when I say that people want to feel a part of something. Right? And that starts to set that tone, so it's really important. Besides your welcome kit, some other things that are really helpful in terms of first impressions and that speak to the same point of setting the right tone, things like mapping out your activities. So you should have some pre-planned activities and strategy for your street team to tap into, right? Don't just gather a whole lot of people together and then figure out what to do with them. That's a little backwards. If you do that, you're going to dissipate the energy very quickly and people will lose interest. So instead, what you want to do is share a calendar or a list of what you have planned currently. It could be your actual marketing plan, or it could be some kind of a doctored version of that, whatever you feel comfortable with. But the idea is to let people really see how they fit in to this overall thing that we're going to call your book marketing plan, right? And here's a tip. I highly recommend you create a calendar for yourself too. It's a really good habit to get into constantly planning ahead and notifying your street team in advance as often as possible, okay? So, just think about yourself, right? If you had a friend call you 2 days before an event asking if you could come and help hand out flyers, or that they're doing something online and they need you to come and click on their link 50 times, or go around and help share and post notices about something that's happening online, you don't want them to ask you like a day before or 2 days before, right? Because you might be busy, you might feel imposed upon. But if you're asked a few weeks in advance and you know that this date is coming up and it's really important and you have time and you're available, then you can commit to it more easily, right? So if you do this well, your street team will rally on those rare occasions when you do need them last minute, okay? So if you're generally planning in advance and giving people plenty of advance notice and you give off this air of being very organized, there will always be rare occasions where a great opportunity pops up out of nowhere. Or maybe you just make a mistake and something slipped. If you've overall been very conscientious and respectful of your street team members' time by being well organized and notifying them in advance of the activities they're expected to participate in, on those rare occasions, you better believe they're going to do their darndest to help you out, right? But the flip side of that, if you're last minute all the time, when you really need them, they won't likely show. And last but not least, you want to be very clear about communication. Make sure that you have ways for your street team members to get in touch with you and with each other, like maybe an online forum or a group. You could have a dedicated email address that you check regularly that's devoted just to street team stuff. Any kind of hierarchy that you think might be useful. Maybe, as I mentioned earlier, you might organize people into committees, or you might have team leaders, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Be very, very clear, and this is something that you can and should include in your welcome kit, I think, what those channels of communication or any kind of structures are going to be. So now it's time to start inviting members to join. You want to remember to take the right tone, and the right tone for starting a street team is like you're inviting people to a party. Right? Nobody wants to come to something the host had to beg them to attend, right? So you want to take this air like, this is going to be great. This is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. People are going to do good stuff. They're going to help you out. They're going to have fun with each other. There might be opportunity for prizes or for other cool types of things. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But you want to have that vibe. This is something that's going to be cool and that people you feel are going to want to participate. You don't want it to have the tone of begging. You never want to have that tone of begging. That makes people feel weird. So how do you put out the invite? You can use your newsletter and social media to make the announcement and the initial invitation. I highly recommend putting a sign-up box on your website. And the way that you do this really depends on sort of what your vision for the street team and your publishing schedule. So initially, let's say, for example, you might have page set up on your website, maybe not the home page, but a special page devoted to forming the street team, and you'll have an opt-in box or a sign-up box on that page. When you're making your announcement in your newsletter or sending out emails or posting on social media, you include the link, they go to the page, they sign up, right? Now, if you are growing your team over time, if this is a long-term thing, if you already know you're going to be publishing one book a quarter or one book every 6 months, and this is something you're definitely going to want to continue to do, and you're going to actively continue to recruit people, then you might want to consider having a more permanent page or a space somewhere on your website. One tip I want to offer here, this type of opt-in should not take priority over other opt-ins. Okay, so for those of you who have a home page where you have a very prominent opt-in for your mailing list somewhere, hopefully on your home page, you don't want that to be overshadowed by the opt-in for your street team. So if you have that on your home page, you probably want to have the opt-in for your street team, maybe further down, or as I mentioned, not on the home page, but on an interior page, sort of buried a little bit more into the site. You could also do things like having a paper sign-up sheet at events, if you're already doing book readings, for example, or if you're vending, if you already have a book out and you've been setting up tables at different events, you can have information about joining your street team wherever you go and let people sign up that way. You also might want to consider creating kind of a job post and sending it to internship programs or other school venues, especially if your book skews young. As I mentioned earlier, you might want to have your street team include your target readers, right? Generally speaking, your street team should include your target readers to the extent possible, right? These are supposed to be your fans, people who are reading your book, who are reading in your category, who get what's going on. So if your book skews young, working with college students or teenagers could be really great for you, and it could be really great for them. They might be able to get school credit, especially college students who can turn this into an internship somehow. It could be a really wonderful job experience. It can be a first line on a resume. If you're working with younger kids, you're aiming for the parents of your readers, right? So if you're writing children's books, and even early middle grade, true middle grade, even though the books are targeted toward the children, the sales are coming from the parents, right? You're targeting the parents and the librarians, the gatekeepers for those young people. So think of where they hang out. Maybe children's reading hour at libraries or book fairs. Find those parents who are the parents of your target readers, and let them know about your street team and let them know about what you're working on and what you're doing. I'm just going to really quickly remind you, all rules apply when working with minors, like parental permission. So consider what they may or may not be allowed to do for you. When you're asking people to join your street team, and maybe you're already wondering, maybe you're thinking, well, this is crazy. I'm going to be putting out all these notices and asking all these people to do this. Why would they do it? Why would anybody want to help me promote my book? Why would anyone want to help me sell my book? Well, here's the thing. For most people, they will join a street team because they like your work or they like you and they want to help you grow your career. But it's not just out of kindness. It's this thing that I've mentioned a couple times already. It's this idea of wanting to be a part of something. Okay, that is one of the most common motivators, one of the most common reasons why people join street teams is they want to be a part of something, right? There's a kind of cachet to being part of a street team, right? It's a little cool. You're like an insider. Everybody wants to be able to say, well, I knew her when. I knew that huge best-selling author when she was self-publishing her first book before she even got scooped up by that major publisher. Or I remember when that person was, just starting out and doing speaking gigs like at meetups. Now she's doing these giant, corporate gigs and keynote talks. Okay? People like that. Okay, that's cool. That's the insider factor. But you have to create that experience. It's not enough to just say, hey, join my street team and be cool, right? You have to create that feeling, that experience of that cool factor, that insider factor, like giving your street team members special access or special content. Okay, and of course, everyone loves gifts. So you'll want to frequently find ways to give tangible gifts to your street team members. Things like discounts on your books, freebies, t-shirts, it can be many different types of things. Whatever that is going to look different for everybody. But the idea is, these people, you're asking them to give up their valuable time to help you accomplish something. Why would they want to do it? What's in it for me is a classic marketing concept. What's in it for me? People don't take action or buy things or whatever because you tell them they should, because you tell them they need to, because you tell them it's important, because you tell them they're doing a good thing. No, ultimately, it's all about what's in it for me, okay? So, gifts. So here's a little story to tell you what I mean about that. I had a client once who wrote books about a horse rescue. These were novels, and they all, well, not all of them, but this one book in particular was about a woman who worked at a horse rescue among this series of sort of horsey books. To help promote that book before it was published, she mailed out a few hundred little metal horse pins to a list of, if I recall correctly, about 400 horse rescues and horse enthusiast groups all over the world. Now, they weren't just random people. These were people that she had previously approached as she was writing the book. She was very, very smart and deliberate about this from day one. So as she was creating the book, she reached out to people to get information. She wanted to make sure her story was authentic. She asked if people would be willing to look at giraffes. She kept them updated on what was going on. They were so excited that somebody was writing this story that highlighted an issue that was important to them, right? They were glad to participate. So when it came time, when the book was finally ready, she sent out these little metal horse pens, and she got it from somewhere like the Oriental Trading Company, one of those bulk companies where you can order hundreds of cute little things. It wasn't very expensive. It didn't cost her a lot of money. They were nice little pins, but she sent them out to all of these rescues and enthusiasts who had supported her in creating the book and who continued to support her by promoting it once it was published. Those little pins went a long way in helping those people feel appreciated, helping them feel like they were a part of something. And let me tell you, for months and months later, she was still hearing from people. They were talking about her book at their events. Several of them bought copies from her in bulk so that they could sell them at their events. They were thrilled to be supportive and behind this story. And part of the reason why was because she gave them this little gift and she made them feel like they were a part of this effort, which was really wonderful. So let's talk about team leads for a minute. Many of you may work in a work environment for your jobs where you have a team lead or you've been a team lead, and this is sort of a similar concept. If you're really strapped for time, or if you have a very large street team, you might want to consider appointing a team lead or two and creating a little bit of a hierarchy among your team. For college students of all ages, a street team can be a great opportunity for them to earn credit, as I mentioned, such as through an internship program, or to create a special project. Maybe there's a particular effort, like a big festival you're going to participate in, or maybe you're doing some kind of really big online special event, like a launch or something more specific, that you can nominate a person to be a team lead for, a college student, as a great example. If they head up that effort for you, that's a really wonderful resume builder and great experience, right? It could also be a great opportunity for career growth. Ambitious and motivated people who might want some professional development or want experience in marketing, they haven't really done it in their day jobs. Often people like that are looking for volunteer opportunities that can help them get the kind of experience they need that they can then translate back into their professions. These are great candidates for team lead positions. Remember, you have to treat them seriously like a boss so they can really learn what they came to learn. Remember, what's in it for me? Always keep in mind why people are joining your team so you can give them what they want and keep them energized. If you know that you've got some interns or you've got some motivated people who are joining your street team who've applied to be team leads because they want this kind of experience as a resume builder, because they need the experience for some other aspect of their lives, treat that respectfully. Make sure that you give them the kind of environment, the kind of guidance, and that kind of opportunity to learn the type of things they want to learn and practice what they want to practice. The really great thing about team leads is they often stick around. If you treat these people right, you nurture them right, these are the people that can really help provide continuity. Because street team members can come and go. Right? They might join for a little while and then not have so much time, or they may come, in and out depending on availability. Ideally, you have a nice long career with your books, right? I want that for you. I want you to be able to publish, books and books and books from here until eternity, and have a nice long career as an author. And over time, you don't want to constantly have a whole new cast of people to nurture and get to know. So when you put people in a team lead position and you take good care of them and you give them cool, exciting stuff to work with, and they feel respected, and again, they feel part of something, they feel part of something that's happening, they feel part of your growing career, they feel part of your audience, they feel part of a fan base, part of a movement even, if that's relevant to the type of book that you have. They're more likely to stick around, and as those other members sort of come and go, your team leads become the people that sort of take on the role of nurturing and orienting some of those new folks that you constantly have to do it over and over again. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, where some of those opportunities to take more of a step back and let the team sort of, the street team run itself a little bit starts to come into play. Great, so let's wrap up with some best practices and tips on how to really leverage your street team and keep them happy for hopefully years to come. First, I encourage you to set a limit. So most people will create a street team for the first time when they're getting ready to launch a book. I recommend you have both a number in mind and a time cutoff for your initial team and initial marketing effort. All right, so what am I talking about here? Let's say, for example, start with at least 10. 10 is a good number, okay? When you're getting ready to launch a book, let's say you know, I want to have at least 10 people on my street team, and I need them to all join by this date so that my book marketing plan can get underway. Okay, so you're looking at your book launching, let's say 6 months from now. You're starting to get everything together for your street team. Maybe you're going to put that notice out. You're going to tell them you have to apply by such and such date. You know, and I'm looking for 10 people, right? And then who knows? I mean, several best-selling authors and big-time writers that I've worked with, I've seen sometimes people saying their street team has about 100 to 200 people at a time, right? So this is something that can really, really grow. Let it grow organically. There's no reason to force it. You don't need 100 people to start, not even close. Starting with 10 really committed, supportive fans can make magic happen for your book. For ongoing use, I do suggest having a maximum number in mind. So again, if you are someone who's writing a series or you have multiple books already out, it's a good idea to grow your street team organically, but I would say have a goal. You know, I don't personally feel like it's useful to just have it grow and grow and grow and grow and grow indefinitely, because the idea isn't to have your entire audience involved. The idea is to make sure that these people are corralled, right? They're organized, they have their marching orders, they show up when they're supposed to, they take action when they're supposed to, they're participating in your marketing plan. Having 100 to 200 could be amazing, and if you're a super organized person, and you definitely at that point would have some kind of hierarchy going on with committees and team leads, I would think. But you know, getting too far beyond that, I haven't seen it work very effectively. I think what tends to happen is you tend to have people who become what we call lurkers, right? So they join the group, but then they don't ever actually do anything. And if you're giving people benefits like access to special content, or you know, access to you, or gifts or discounts, or all those things that you're going to do to help nurture that street team over time, that's another reason why you don't want to just have an unlimited number of people, right? It might become unwieldy. It's better to have a smaller group of people that you can successfully manage, motivate, and encourage and nurture than to just have more and more and more and more people who may or may not actually be, you know, really tapped in and actually doing stuff, right? And this is why I say to be picky, okay? You want to be a little picky, but there's a balance here. You don't want to be too picky either. So you want readers, yes, absolutely, these people are your readers, but you also want talkers and sharers. You want people who are willing to talk about your book. You want people who are willing to go on social media and share your posts, comment on your blog posts when you do a blog tour, you know, tell all their friends when there's an event in their area. So don't be afraid to say no. People who aren't genuinely committed or able to do what you're asking for are ultimately just going to be a drag, literally and figuratively. Okay, they're going to bring the energy down, they're going to waste your resources and waste your time. So it's okay to say no if somebody really doesn't meet the criteria you have set out and they don't meet the needs for whatever it is your street team is going to be doing. You always want to balance asking for help with providing value. Again, remember, what's in it for me? So a really great way to have a successful street team experience is to make it special. Congratulate new members on joining. Create starter kits. Maybe send them a small stack of swag, right? Like bookmarks for your books or postcards. Put that all together with your welcome packet. Maybe it's a digital packet. Maybe there's something actually printed. Maybe you have a nice little welcome gift that you can send to somebody unexpectedly when they join your street team. That's a really nice thing to do. Give insider peeks, right? Let them see what's going on behind the curtain, so to speak. There's a really wonderful allure that authors have, even if you're not some big best-selling, hugely professional author, even if you're brand new. If you've done everything right and you look really professional, even if it's your first book, there's a little bit of mystique that you can take advantage of here. So, make your street team feel special by giving them that peek behind the curtain that nobody else gets, a view of everything that you're doing. Do video messages, do little Facebook Live videos to let them know what's going on. Conference calls, emails, let them be the first to know when something's going on. For example, I've seen authors very successfully do things like giving sneak peeks of their covers to their street teams, or even asking their street team for their opinion, right? Get their help doing what you want, but also ask their opinion about it, like asking about cover choices. Maybe you've got 2 or 3 different cover designs that you're choosing from. Poll your street team and see what they think. If you're debating about a pricing strategy, ask their opinion about that. Whatever it is that you want to know from your readers, ask your street team first. Show them that their opinion is valued, that their presence and their participation is valued, and not just because their boots hitting the road for you, right? Their opinions matter. Again, you can gift swag or opportunities that are special just for the team, special drawings or raffles that you don't make available to anyone else, special giveaways, discounts, extra content. Maybe there are stories that you've pulled out of your book. Sometimes you may have seen authors that will publish little side stories about main characters from a series, or a backstory that isn't a part of the series, or even a story that takes place in the same world, but it's short. It's not like a full-length book. Maybe you have stuff like that you only give to your street team, or that you give to your street team first, and then you don't make it available to the general public for at least 6 months to a year later, right? You can do things like sending a free book for them and then sending them an extra free book for them to give to a friend. Again, these are your super fans. Give them a book that they can give away and talk about how awesome you are. That could then lead to that new friend buying more of your other books, right? This is how people build buzz. Last but not least, especially when you become a little more comfortable with the street team situation and you've been working together for a while, consider an earnings share. Now, there are a lot of mixed opinions on this, but I think you could experiment in small ways. For example, monetary prizes, right? Things like giving away a gift card for people who take certain actions or do certain things. You could set up some kind of affiliate marketing, especially if they have a blog or a website or social media. If you create some kind of affiliate marketing situation, they could use affiliate links, the same way that Amazon does for books. So that's another thing that you might consider doing if that's something that feels comfortable to you. So here's another important place to invest in your team. It's really important to give books early and often. After all, the book is why they're here, and it's what you want them to spread the word about, right? So giving books out early means, first and foremost, giving out ARCs. ARCs are advanced reader copies. You want to give those out before publication, at least 2 weeks before publication, probably not more than 3. And then ask for preferred format, digital versus print, and honor it. So what I mean is, tell your street team, the book's coming out, you want to give everybody a chance to read it, usually because you're going to ask them to post reviews, right, and help spread the buzz. So ask them what they want. Would they rather have an ebook? Would they rather have a print book? And honor that request. And this is, again, one of those things that you might consider even including in your welcome kit, right? Like if you want to save some money and you intend to give out free ebooks but not free print books, or maybe you're not even doing a print book, maybe you're starting with an ebook edition of your book only, you might want to include in that welcome kit or in that application packet, do you read ebooks? Right? If this is somebody who never reads ebooks, then they might not be the right fit for your team. You want to make sure that you're giving them ample time to read. Okay, you want your street team excited to read the latest, but you also need to be reasonable. So that's why I say about 2 to 3 weeks before your pub date or your launch date is recommended. If you give them too much time, excitement is going to wane, and it's going to be harder to motivate them when the book actually comes out. It's going to be much harder to do that. And if you wait too late, of course, then they don't have enough time to read. Not everybody reads a book in an afternoon, or they might not have a time. And this, again, is another place where telling people what's coming up in advance and them knowing what kind of opportunities they're going to have to participate can be really, really important. You want people to be sure they're reading the book and being able to post reviews when the book becomes live on places like Amazon or Goodreads, right? So let them know in advance. Let them know several months in advance that you're going to have ARCs available for them by this date and that you're going to ask them to read it in advance of the book coming out by this date, right? That's where having that long-term strategy and those events mapped out and clearly explained in your welcome kit can be really important and really useful. You're going to have a better chance of people actually reading the book and posting those reviews on the schedule that you like if you warn them that it's coming and they can clear their calendar. As I mentioned, you want to leave time to pre-write reviews, right? You want them to write a review that's going to be ready to post online as soon as the book goes live. This is one way that a lot of successful authors get a large number of reviews posted within 24 to 48 hours of launch. That makes Amazon's algorithm super happy, and it has this thing that we call the halo effect. So if you've got all these people, imagine, members of your street team, they've gotten a copy of the book, they've read it, they've already written their review, and they're ready to post it. Now your book goes live. They've all been notified. They all come on to Amazon, let's say on launch day, and post their reviews live on Amazon. They go over to Goodreads, and they post their reviews live there. Amazon starts to see that activity happening, and it starts to give more attention organically to your book. It starts to promote your book a little bit more to other people. That's the halo effect. The more other people start to pay attention and take action, maybe they buy the book, maybe they download it for free, depending on how you're handling that launch. Now they start to see even more activity, so they give it a little more attention. There's lots of different ways that Amazon can drive attention to a book, right? And this is one of the ways that you can get them to pay attention to you. You want to create opportunities for buzz. And books can help you do that. Giving books early and giving books often can help create opportunities for buzz. But you also want to create opportunities for your street team members to get together and be excited together, like being live in an online forum where they can gush about the book and ask you questions. If possible, one of the things I really recommend is having a live kickoff meeting where you can really celebrate your street team members. It's a thank you to them. You can do this online. If you live somewhere where you have a lot of members locally, you can have an actual live party. That can be super fun. Really depends on your situation. But some way, if you could have a live kickoff meeting, especially if your street team has already been working for you for several months and you want to give back, you want to say thank you, have the meeting, celebrate them, and get them excited at the same time with that launch party. And last but not least, you want to make sure you're always giving your street team ammunition. You want to make sure they have stuff to use to create buzz, to spread the word, to share. You want to make it as easy for them as possible. So having things available to them like press releases, giving them early versions of the cover copy or what's ultimately going to be your online book description, making that available to them early and having it somewhere that they can download whenever they need it. Cover images. As soon as you settle on a cover, making those images available to your street team members so they can use that to help. Endorsements that might come in, anything that you're going to be putting on Amazon ultimately as part of your description to help promote the book or in other marketing tools. Make sure they have access to it. The latest reviews, any awards you've won, photos of you, text that you might want them to use, links that you might want them to use, anything that you want to have available as collateral and part of your marketing activities, get it to your street team. Give them what they need to help spread the word about you. Don't make them ask for it. They may not know what to ask for, right? It's not really like an emotional thing that, oh, I don't want to ask, they're afraid. It's not like that. They may not know to ask for it. They may not be thinking in terms of what kind of opportunities there are. Don't confuse the fact that people are joining a street team and that they're aware loosely of what a street team does with the fact that you are still the leader. You still have to let them know what it is you expect and need and want from them. And, you know, they're joining because they're happy to help you do those things. So give them what they need to get it done. I said giving books early and often. That means give more to get more. You can expect about a 10% return in terms of reviews, okay? So if you're giving out books, you want to give away as many books as you can afford to get as many reviews as possible. So like I said, most people, if they do giveaways right, tend to see about a 10% return. That means for every 100 books you give away, you can expect about 10 reviews to get posted. Now, one would hope that this number is much higher in a street team, especially a properly formed and very motivated street team. You will probably, hopefully, see a much higher percentage of return. Okay, that number that I found, you know, anecdotally is really more about just sort of giveaways in general. But I just want to give you a benchmark so you have some idea of what to expect here and why it's so important to give those books away. I know it's really hard, you guys, especially when you're just starting out and you're independent and you're fronting the bill for everything. The idea of giving away 100 books probably creates a panic attack, especially if some of those books are going to be print, if you're not able to deliver them all digitally. I get it, I really do. But here's the deal. It is a marketing truism. It is a business truism that you got to spend money to make money. And this is just as true with independent publishing. Now, there are lots of ways to save money. There are lots of things you can do, mostly online, not just online. But there are lots of things that you can do that don't cost you any money, absolutely. But the cost of providing books, of doing giveaways, of sending ARCs, of doing all of these things to get more reviews, think of it as an investment, not an expense. Okay? Don't be cheap. Remember, you're asking for free help, so you want to give back. If you don't give out regular copies to your street team members early, then make sure you at least give them a special discount they can choose to use or not to buy the finished book. Okay, you want to get these books into the hands of people who are already interested and motivated. And who's more interested and motivated in your success than the members of your street team? Okay, so like I said, think of it as an investment, not an expense. You're giving away these books so that these people will talk about it to their friends, so that they'll post reviews about it online, which will help encourage more sales, so that they will be more excited about what they're doing with you, about your next book, about your career overall, right? Give them the book. Don't worry about it. Go digital if you can. It's less expensive, but give them the book. I've mentioned the word relationships several times. Street teams ultimately are all about relationships. So you want to connect with your members. Let's talk about how you can connect with them and work with them online, since that's how most of your interactions are going to happen to build buzz for your books. First and foremost, Facebook and Goodreads events. Consider inviting your street team members and ask your street team members to invite all their friends too. Use that same principle for giveaways on Goodreads and Amazon and whatever, as well as actual events like an online book launch party. Okay, this is where, you know, knowing that some of your members are skilled with and comfortable with social media, knowing that you have people that like to share, right? Not people who just go on once a month to look at pictures of their grandkids, right? People who are actively sharing and forwarding and talking about stuff. This is where those people come in really handy. Have an online book launch party and get your street team to invite all of their friends. You can tag your street team members when you post things like a new review or you're making an announcement about your next virtual blog tour stops. Encourage your street team to respond with comments, which increases the chances that Facebook will show it to others in their timelines. Okay, that's how Facebook works. If you post something and you get all of your street team members to comment and like it and then share it to their profiles and pages, Facebook says, hey, this post is really interesting to other people. People are paying attention to this. Let's show it to even more people. And for those of you who are already aware that they really throttle the number of posts, especially on a business page. So if you have a page for yourself as an author for your book on Facebook, you know that when you post to it, only a small percentage of the people connected to your page are actually seeing that post unless you pay to boost it. That's how Facebook gets revenue. So this is one way that you could sort of game that system. Get a lot of activity on one post, and all of a sudden Facebook is showing for free that post to a lot more people who have already liked your page. Right? They also sometimes will start to promote your page as a suggestion to the friends of the people who have already liked your page. Okay, so there's also a really nice halo effect that happens here. You can do things like ask your street team to change their profile pictures, right? Maybe you guys have seen this as a way of raising awareness for various causes. You can sort of take a similar tactic. Let's say, for example, on your launch day, on publication day, ask your street team members to change their profile pics to your book cover, right? Now, this is something you're probably only going to get your most rabid fans to do. So you might need some extra incentives for this, like a contest, to help encourage them. You could do something like, say, for example, say that you're holding a free raffle, and to get an entry in the raffle for some super cool prize, they have to make their profile pic your book cover for the day of launch and then take a screenshot and send it to you. And that becomes their entry, right? That can be a really great way to get people to do stuff like that. Excuse me. You can also ask them to post your book cover or post a pre-written notice to their favorite fan message boards. You know, if they're active readers and they're active online, maybe they're a member of some forums. Let's say, for example, you write romance, paranormal romance. Well, maybe some members of your street team are already members of lots of other forums for fans of paranormal romance. You know, so ask them to go ahead and post to those places too. You can ask them to create signature blocks, or you can create example signature blocks for them that they can just copy and paste and plug their own information into. These don't have to be crazy. They don't have to be graphic. It can be really simple. It could just be a line or two as part of their signature for message boards, for their email, etc. It could be, you know, a team member just putting a URL to a special page or to your website. It could be an affiliate link to buy the book when it's out, right? Either your own affiliate link or even an Amazon affiliate link. And then ask them to use the signature block in their message forums and their groups for subtle promotion. So there are a lot of times groups will be very explicit that they don't want people spamming the group with promotions. So having a signature block can be a soft sell, right? It can be a way to get people's attention when your street team members post stuff in their groups. Other members of the group will see the signature block and thereby learn about you and learn about your books. It could even just be something like, you know, it could be something clever, you know, that they're a member of your street team. Even that can help raise awareness. Really, when it comes to social media and being connected to your street team, you really want to just encourage your members to post. This should definitely be a part of any modern author's book marketing plan. Social media has to be a feature. Get your street team members to post reviews, right? Get them to post them, of course, to Amazon, to Goodreads, but maybe then they also copy it and post it online. You know, maybe they post it to their page or their profile. Get them to make comments on blogs about your book, especially if you're doing a virtual blog tour, right? This, again, is a good example of why letting people know things in advance is really useful. If all your street team members know that you're going to be doing a virtual blog tour in any particular week, and this day you're going to be writing about this topic for this blog, and this day you're going to be interviewed for this blog, et cetera, you can ask them to visit those blogs on those days when your article is live and comment. That's going to do a number of things. It's going to help them alert their own circles to the fact that something's going on and help, sort of do, again, a soft sell and spread the word about your project. It's going to make the hosts of the blogs where you're appearing really happy because they're going to see that they're getting activity on their blog. They're getting visitors to their blog. Maybe some of your readers are discovering their blog for the first time and then they become subscribers, which is always awesome. Things like Google and other search engines are going to see all this activity happening on this website. They're going to see backlinks happening. They're going to see organic search happening. It's really good for lots of different reasons. You can ask them to vote in contests. I mean, the list is literally endless. There are so many things you can ask them to do. But here's the key. You don't want to spam them, right? So as much as possible, think of these marketing activities like challenges or contests to incentivize your street team to take action, as opposed to just constantly asking for help. So what we're talking about is shifting the psychology of it a little bit, right? If you issue some kind of challenge, maybe the challenge is worth a prize. If you have a lot of activities, maybe your street team members can earn points that add up to something amazing. Maybe you have a 6-month plan mapped out, and maybe you say, okay, everyone joins the street team. You are going to have the opportunity to win a brand new iPad, let's say, at the end of the 6 months. And the way we're going to do it is every time you take action on one of the activities, you're going to get a point. And whoever has the most points at the end the 6-month period wins the tablet. That can be incredibly motivating to people, right? Or it can be smaller. It can be, like I mentioned earlier, maybe you have a raffle or, something to do for a specific action and then let people, participate that way. So there's lots of different ways you can do this, but if you think about it as more like contests, as more like challenges, where you're incentivizing and motivating people, again, making them feel like they're a part of something, that they're trying to win something, they're trying to get something, they're trying to do something, that can get you much better results than if you're just constantly, feeling insecure and sort of just like begging your street team to help you out. That's not a great dynamic. That's not ultimately going to result in a positive experience for anyone. Probably you're going to end up being really frustrated. Okay. Bottom line here, guys, whatever you do online, leverage your street team to help you boost the signal. It's probably the most useful aspect of having a street team is their ability to help you boost the signal. So take advantage of that, especially online. But as I mentioned at the very beginning, not all activities are online. They don't all have to be online. There's lots of ways to be connected with your street team and your audience offline as well. Some examples. Mail out materials to your street team members. Mail out materials they can distribute for you, like small stacks of bookmarks, flyers, postcards. Ask them to put them out in local designated areas. Now, I want to give you a tip here. Don't just send a bunch of stuff out to people and say, hey, spread these around town. Right? That's not going to get you the most bang for your buck. And printed materials are expensive, right? So you want to be sure you're explicit on where you want them placed and about how many, so they don't all end up being dumped on a restroom counter somewhere, right? You don't want them to take the entire stack of postcards and leave them on a bench or leave them, next to a shelf in the bookstore. You want to tell them, hey, I'm sending you guys bookmarks. I encourage you to divide that pile into 3 stacks and leave them in your local bookstore, your local library, your local, teen activity center, whatever it is, wherever you might suggest it. Be explicit. Okay, give them instruction. I would say, generally speaking, this kind of activity works the best if you promote most heavily around local events. Right? Like maybe you're going to work with local indie stores to hand out to passersby on publication day. If you've got a favorite local indie store that's going to be carrying your book and going to be working with you, maybe you're going to do a reading, maybe you're going to have the launch party there, whatever it is. You might have some street team members take a bunch of postcards or take a bunch of flyers and help spread them in key locations around that particular region. Or on that day, stand out, do the old street team thing, stand out on the corner and drive people to the store. Okay, that bookstore owner is going to love you for doing that because you're helping to drive people to the store in a way that they probably don't have the manpower to do. If you have a reading coming up, if you're, as I mentioned, at a festival, I gave this example much earlier. If you're reading at a festival or selling books at a festival, or doing any kind of activity at a festival where you have a vendor table or are appearing in some way, have members of your street team take tangible materials, bookmarks, flyers, postcards, what have you, and have them go out into the festival and give them to people, right? Have them drive people to your reading or your signing or your table. You can send your street team members on missions. You can have them do things like get information, right? One thing that independent authors often struggle with is getting into places like libraries or bookstores, right? It's often very challenging. You're not necessarily tapped into the same kind of networks that the really big publishers have. So one thing you could do is ask all your street team members to go to their local libraries and find out who the contact person is for who makes decisions on whatever type of book. So usually libraries will have a children's librarian, they might have an audiobook librarian, an adult librarian. So they'll have somebody who's in charge of that specific category or type of book. Have your street team members do that research for you. Have them make that first contact. Tell them exactly who you're looking for. Tell them how to introduce themselves, right? Help them to feel confident even by giving them a mini script. Hi, I'm Jane Smith. I'm a member of such and such author's street team, and she's got this wonderful book coming out in about 6 months, and we're going around to libraries to find out who she needs to get in touch with to ask to have her book available to that library. Same thing can work for independent bookstores, or even if there's some kind of retail market, if there are gift shops or there's some other kind of brick and mortar store that you feel is relevant to how you want to sell your book. Ask them to go on that mission. Ask them to get that information for you. You can also direct flybys, right? This happens, I had an author once, even when I worked at Simon & Schuster, who used this, and it worked really, really well. You can have them go to their local bookstore or their library and order a copy of your book, right? When libraries and bookstores get a lot of requests for something that they don't normally stock, that's one of the factors they take into consideration when they're thinking about stocking a new book. Okay, so if people are asking for it, especially if there's a strong local effort, they're going to be a lot more likely to stock that book or have it available if you've got people asking for it. So you can have them do things like that for you. And last but not least, your street team can really help you guys on the ground. You can have them be alert for opportunities that they might pass on to you and help you set up. When this happens, it's important to always be really effusive with thanks. Find ways to make these people feel special because, let's face it, they're making an extra effort. And when you do this right, when you nurture people and you empower them to find these opportunities and then really make them feel special for having found them for you, man, they're going to talk about that forever. They're going to tell that story about the time you came to their town to do a reading or do a signing or do a talk or whatever. They're going to talk about that for life, right? The key to helping to make this happen is to be really clear with your street team about what kind of opportunities you're looking for. The more specific you are, the more likely they'll remember and think of you when something pops up. So let's say, for example, you have a book for young adults. You might say to your street team, I'm looking for opportunities to speak to teenagers, to high school students about, let's say your novel has themes about self-esteem and bullying. I'm looking for opportunities to speak to high school age students and to the parents of high school age students about self-esteem and bullying. So I'm looking for events that are held at schools or at libraries. Sometimes they might be at youth centers. And I would like to be someone who speaks at those events or who comes and sells and signs my book. If you can be that specific, next time your street team member comes across a listing in a newspaper, or their kid comes home and tells them about something that's coming up at their school, or they see a flyer somewhere about an event that's going to happen, they're much more likely to remember that you've mentioned you're interested in that kind of thing because you were very specific about it. Now they're going to come back and tell you, hey, I heard about this event. It's just what you said you were looking for. It meets all your criteria. Here's the contact information. Here's what I was able to find out about it. And you may or may not continue to have them act as a go-between. Maybe you take over from there. Maybe there's someone else in your street team that's better equipped to do that kind of thing. You send a gift, you say thank you. Maybe you get involved in that event. Now you're actually going to it. You want to make sure that you let that street team member know. Maybe when you let everybody know, you call that person out and you say, I especially want to thank, I especially want to thank Jim because Jim's the one who brought this awesome event to my attention. And I'm so excited to be able to participate. Thank you so much, Jim. It was really awesome. Right? Those kinds of things go a long way in making people feel nurtured and appreciated and special. When people feel nurtured, appreciated, and special, they're going to go that extra effort. So, to sum up, I just want to review that there are 3 keys to an effective and enjoyable street team experience. And everything we've talked about falls under these 3 keys. Personal relationships. Don't think of your members as workhorses or even just as volunteers, or you will lose them, okay? It's being part of a community that keeps people coming back for more. You don't join a team for free gifts. You join because you love the author and the author's books, and you truly want to help other readers discover that author. You join because you want to be a part of something, like being there at the beginning, right? That's what's really powerful. I mean, the free gifts are important, right? Like I mentioned lots of the ways in which that can be useful, but ultimately that's not why people join. It's because of the personal relationships. Number 2, enthusiasm and excitement. The output must feel relatively equal, okay, to the input. If there's inequality in what you're asking them to do versus what you're giving to them, ultimately it's going to sap enthusiasm and excitement. And what other motivation is there if you're not paying them a big salary, right? You're not paying these people to do this for you, okay? They're not your publicist. So what else is there that's going to continue to keep them motivated, that's going to continue to keep them engaged, especially over the long term? Have stuff for them to do regularly. That will keep them active and engaged, right? Have the bigger plan, have the activities mapped out, be clear about what's going on, and then use prizes and other incentives as necessary, especially on the big, really important efforts where you really want everyone to dive in. And key number 3, organization and nurturing. Like I said earlier, if you want to attract the right people, you got to be the right kind of team and you got to show it from day 1. And likewise, if you want your community to thrive, you need to nurture it. Remember that tree metaphor that I talked to you about earlier. You can avoid some of the typical problems if you like people who commit and disappear, or people who feel sort of inordinately entitled, right? You can avoid those problems by being organized with clear guidelines, expectations, and boundaries from day 1. And if you stay in touch to build relationship, over time, you're going to support keys 1 and 2. And all together, it's going to come together to create this really amazing, magical thing. I mean, some of these people could be those fans that are with you for life, right? These people could be your very earliest and most dedicated and devoted fans. You never know where this kind of thing can take you. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for purchasing this course. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found this helpful. Don't forget to download the handout that's available. And if there's anything that I can do for you, I hope you'll visit me at my home, which is thewritersally.com. And also there's my personal site, alanmachadi.com. I look forward to your success, and I hope you'll let me know about it if you found this course enjoyable. Thank you again.